Hello everyone and welcome to the Atelier Nikuzuki stream. I am actually just heading in to make sure that I am able to view the content just as a backup. Make sure things are actually streaming through like they're supposed to. Alright, and things are looking good. Okay. Alright, let's move this over here. Pull this up here. So if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. Tonight we are working on getting knot bags ready. This has been like the setup that I've been dreaming of since I started streaming more regularly this summer. I wanted the overhead camera because honestly working this way or not having a face cam on me felt really weird, to be honest. So here we are. All right, so we've got the pancake breakfast. Now, if you've been watching some of the streams or if you've been on the website, you know that this fabric has been released in the eyeglasses cases, but this is actually one of the bags that was made out of it. It's a knot bag. So right now we're in full steam ahead prep mode for Knit City Vancouver, which is September 22nd to 24th. So 5 weeks today. Well, the marketplace is open 5 weeks today. There's like a keynote in classes on the Friday. I think there's still room in the classes, so if you want to take a look at that, definitely do. This is one of my favorite knitting events of the year. It's one of my biggest events of the year, so that's why you may hear a little bit of slight panic in my voice, simply because I have a 20-foot booth and I do not have enough stock for a 20-foot booth. So this is going to be a theme for the next few weeks, is slight panic, because 5 weeks is not a lot of time, especially with two little ones. So my eldest has one more week of summer camp this week, and my youngest is in day home for the majority of it. So I am going to put my head down and get as much work done as I can this week, and then have to adjust the week afterwards. But it'll be fine. I always get through. I don't know how I'm going to get through this year, but I'll always do it somehow. So we will do it again. All right. So what I'm doing right now is I've sewn the exterior of the knot bags, also sewn the interiors, and what this is doing is I'm clipping with the pinking shears so that the edges, because they're round edges, they've got enough fabric to kind of go around. So that's that guy. I think I've got 6 left. And then we'll go in and we'll put the exteriors and interiors together. So apparently my tension was set kind of high with these guys because they've got a little bit of a gather. Earlier today I was working on the grime guards and the cake cozies that I've been cutting the last few days. The light colored ones are basically done. There's a couple in time out, at least for the next few days, just so that I don't have to look at them. They've disappointed me again. But basically what happened is the serger threw a tantrum last night, and I noticed on all of my my black thread serging items that they basically were getting gathered, and it wasn't working. But I hadn't realized how that had started with the white thread. So earlier today I re-threaded it with the black thread, and we got all the black grime guards and cake cozies serged. And then I was sewing the white grime guards and cake cozies and realized that some of them had to go away. They weren't ready to be sewn, actually. So they're in timeout, and we will get to them later this week, because I do have a friend. I messaged my friend and she will come over and help me put the elastics actually into those products, which is awesome. So I'm probably going to save a lot of that work for the weekend of I'll finish these up to the point of I'll probably turn these because I want to get them something done and dusted. I think I am at the point where I've got enough big bags completed. I hope. I need to actually unpack my stock from Knit City and do a count, because I sold more than I anticipated at that show. Granted, I prepped for that show, but I sold more than I anticipated, so that's a good thing. But it does mean that I need to just do a recount and make sure that I've got what I want to make sure that I've got like a nice showing at Knit City. Because realistically, if I don't have the stock, there's no point in doing the show. Although I think what I will do is I will open up like pick your own orders, and then we'll figure out something like some sort of free shipping deal or something. Don't quote me on that yet, because I just literally threw that out and I don't know what that would look like, but I have a feeling I can figure something out. So there's that. All right, so we're just about there. My hands are really sore from these pinking shears. They're like rubbing my knuckles all across here. And somehow I've damaged one of my knuckles. I don't know how. But we're going to turn this out like this. And obviously, because my main audience is knitters and crocheters, we had to have the sheep fabric. I saw this before. I saw these sheep before I even went to Japan in November. And I was like, I need that fabric for sure. And lo and behold, Nomura Taylor still had it. I was so happy. I follow Nomura Taylor. They're the shop in Kyoto. They do ship internationally as well. The international shipping from them just doesn't work for me personally because of the amounts that I purchase. But they do ship, so if you're looking for small amounts, it's a really good option. Anyway, but I follow them on like Facebook and Instagram, and they've been posting previews of their new fabrics. And they are still to die for. Like most of these fabrics are absolutely amazing. But I want to go back to Japan for fabric right now so much. But I at least need to get through this part of what I brought back in May. I haven't even like gotten what I brought back in May into the washer or dryer yet. That's how busy this summer has been. So even though I'm super excited about it, it will be a bit before I'm even able to think about touching it. So here's the sheep in a different colorway. So the other one was like a blue, and this is a gray with blue and white sheep. I'm going to extend this window just a little bit so that you've got... Actually, I think we should go the other direction. Kind of tidied up my window ledge for this. There we go. A full view onto the desk. It's like, I don't know. This is the learning curve with this software, so I'm just playing around with it and seeing what works the best. But I do like the fact that I was able to zoom in that way. I have my handy hand sanitizer behind my sewing machine. Mostly to keep it on my kiddos' hands, but also because then if I need it, I have it handy. Today it cooled down significantly in Alberta. It has over kind of the last couple days, but today it was noticeable. We actually have a frost advisory on for Cochrane tonight. So that's interesting. I know we do tend to start to run into that sort of stuff at the middle of August. But it was like we were in a heat advisory 2 days ago. This weather is, it's going to be a learning curve, that's for sure. But, there we go. I've got the fans cut there. Turn it inside out here. See, I'll be happy if we get through all the knot bags tonight, and then I'll be very pleased if we actually get into stitching the dark, like the black serged grand guards and cake cozies, and that is totally possible. I am like on a roll these days, which is really nice because sometimes it can be hard to motivate myself. I took a day off of like a full few days off after Omatsuri, more or less anyway. And Dallas and I took a completely full day off on Wednesday, which was very much needed. So I think that's helped me come back stronger and like more present for actually making stuff. So if you're curious about what other fabrics I brought back in November, I do actually have a full preview video up on the channel. I think it's titled something about November Japan fabrics or something like that. Okay, I'm going to go actually past my little marker there because that'll cut most of that selvage off. And then I'm just going to make a tick mark because that's what gets nested with the interior exterior. That's a large enough scrap to go into the scrap graveyard. And we'll turn this right side out as well. Looking at this setup, the one thing that I still do need to add is I just need to add more lights. I need to add more lights everywhere. So my lights are sufficient for like sewing, but they're not really sufficient for video. Wonder if I could turn the flashlight on my iPhone, if that would work. We do also have a quality control inspector on duty. Miss Dahlia is down here making sure everything's coming up to her very high standards. I think her standards may even be higher than mine overall. And kiddos are hanging out with Dad while I get work done. Neither of us expected it to be this busy this year. So I'm looking forward to that little bit of gap. We're going to go out to Vancouver, and then we're going to go out onto the island for a bit of a vacation. And then I have my first official half marathon actually in Fernie the week following Knit City. So that's going to be interesting. Figure I should go run a half before I don't want to go into Florida and my first half and full marathon be at Disney. So the Fernie one's the only one that really fit in where it needed to, or else I was going to be dropping the distance I was doing. So worked out. And then I don't have anything else scheduled as of right now, but I do have applications coming up for new shows. So we got Macaron Critters, and we have trimmed all of the interiors and exteriors. So I just pulled the bin over. There's a whole stack of them here. And it's time to start assembling. So I'm going to do these individually because there's so many ways to sew, or so many like seams to sew now. What we're going to do is I stuff the interior into the exterior, or the exterior into the interior, sorry, pardon me. And then push everything together, and then I start sewing by sewing these short little arms together, and then I sew the long arms together, and then I sew the actual swoop of the knot bag after that. So let's jump into that. So if you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. I would appreciate it. We'll see how this goes today. One of those days where it's like it could go very well or it could go and be an absolute disaster. It just depends on if it's just like chosen violence or not. Basically, my serger chose violence. I'm gonna bring you in a little bit so that you can actually see. There we go. That's pretty good. And this is not something that I typically chain piece because it would be very annoying. Oh, and the stitching came out on the interior of this one. So let's just run some more stitches there. I either didn't backstitch well enough or I snipped the back stitches, so who knows. But we'll add some in here. Run them over the old stitch line. There we go. And then we're ready to go. There. And we'll put these two together again. So there's little notches in the fabric, and those are what you line up so that you know it's more or less going to line up. Obviously, the exterior and interior cuts were in a little bit of a disagreement. I don't know why, but I think I cut these knot bag interiors quite a while ago. Although they're from the same template, so I don't know. I don't know what's happening sometimes. I know I'm doing all the work, but I don't know what's happening. I just know that I'm supposed to show up and sew some days, most days. And apparently I need to show up and sew more often right now than I anticipated. Alright. Now I could chain piece these around, especially in that direction, but I'm not going to. Oh, you are in my face on the computer, so let's turn that a little bit. Right, like the camera is in my face. You aren't in my face. That's fine. I guess you can still see me for now, so we're good. Alright, there we go. Like I said, I'm still learning how I want to use this. It is what I want to use, or the direction I want the string to go, but I am finding that live streaming is one of the best ways to actually keep myself on track right now, as well as creating content at the same time. It is one of the most difficult things as a maker, is to like make the content to go along with the stuff, I find. Alright, so I have a couple options too once I finish the actual like stitching. I can go through and with the pinking shears right away and trim this swoop, or I could like hold them all for one time and do the swoop. And I'm not convinced either way right now. My hands are still sore from trimming the exterior, so I'm like, I should just leave it. But my hands are still sore from the exteriors, and I'm like, no, you should trim them right away so that you only have to do like one at a time. You can rest your hands in between. So I'm leaning towards that second option, since sewing this bag is giving them a rest currently. At least from the scissors, not from the actual sewing. Okay, so obviously curves and fabric do not always agree, so it's just kind of easing it around these curves here. I swear these knot bags are probably why I've gotten better at sewing drop-in linings. Just make sure that at least some part of the fabric is caught on all edges. Then we'll push this in and we'll do it on the other side. And then yeah, we'll trim it with the pinking shears right away so that it's just done and I can just turn them. Maybe I should just turn it and finish it. That sounds like an intrusive thought, but it would be a good idea. Alright, so there is one knot bag put together. Okay, so I'm going to swoop you back just a little bit here. There. I think that's better. You're still able to see the sewing machine, but yeah. Oh right, we're not doing that yet. We're gonna trim the corner. Do I need to trim up by the handles? Not really. I do want to trim down the seam allowance a little bit, but I don't need to do it with pinking shears. So I might, that might be the difference, is maybe I should trim it with the regular scissors. The regular shears instead of the pinking shears. It's just that it's faster to do it with the pinking shears most of the time. But my regular shears are smoother, and so less difficult on my hands. Okay. Obviously I'll trim down this a little bit at the top here. Oh, you really can't see my face now. Hi. There we go. This still doesn't work. Okay, so let's move you back. There. Now it's kind of the best of both worlds. Also put the cord back behind there a little bit more. Like I said, learning curves, right? So there. Hello. And we can move the laptop forward a bit, and then you have just a little bit of the gooseneck in the way. Okay. So we're gonna actually just trim just the curve on this knot bag. I think I could actually change the camera view on the phone as well, which might help, but right now I'm happy with where it's at. Okay. There we go. Alright, so we need to trim down the short arms here so that they match up with the exterior, mostly because it just makes it easier to sew the next step. And this is actually, this pattern that I'm using, it is a pattern, it was a free pattern online. I don't remember where I got it, unfortunately. But the other part of that is that it's actually kind of a mashup of a few different patterns to sew it together like this. There is no specific pattern that would actually put it together like this. But because of reasons, this is just how I do it. Most of them want you to like leave that sewing to the end, and then you like the handle sewing, and then you fold the handles in and top stitch it. It's just like, no. No. It's easier to do the sewing and lining and then birth the bag, which is what we're doing right now. So now do I normally actually turn them as soon as I've sewn them? No. This is usually something that's done all at the end, but I don't know, want to show it off. And then we will go back to sewing all the things. So basically it gets pulled out, and then one of these labels will go in for saying that it's cotton. And because it's been trimmed on the curves, it's just a nice kind of roll in to finish along that edge. And there is the knot bag. So what'll happen is I'll finish up here with French seams, encase the seams so that there's nothing raw to like unravel. And there's your bag. And then to close it, when you get it, you actually take the short end, you put the long end through it. So the long end through the short end, and there's your handle for carrying the bag. And that's the knot bag. All right. So we're going to do the next one, which is the fans. Okay. I am going to do my counts so that I don't go nuts about how many bags I have to finish. I'm going to leave this one out because we're already going to work on it. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and then 1, 2, 3. Okay, so including the one that's on my desk right now, 24. So let's see how long it'll take us to sew 24 knot bags together. Based on the amount of time right now, it's about probably 10 minutes to sew the other one. So 240 minutes, so 4 more hours. Yeah, that could be right. So we'll see what we get through tonight. Most of my streams have been about 2 hours. Dallas is taking care of bedtime tonight, obviously, because he's got the kiddos on lockdown for me. And we'll just see how long we go. The streams have been really good to show me how long stuff takes, and both kind of sobering for how long stuff takes sometimes. Okay, so we put that under at 22:52. Let's see how long it takes us. Go around this curve. I also make sure that I backstitch both directions on this turn because it is a point of high stress, obviously. One of the corner points of the actual bag. There we go. Make sure that I've caught at least a part of both the lining and the exterior at all points. I did not right there. Okay. Again, it's like that situation where it's just like, I just need things to go smooth, and then they don't go smoothly. Like, just cooperate, please. Having to redo that black serging was a absolute gut wrench. It's a lot of work. And I considered pulling it out. I did pull it out on some of them, but it's like with some of them you could find the chain stitch, which is the easy way to pull it out. Some of them, it was just like, it was an absolute nightmare. So honestly, what I ended up doing was going through and just trimming it off with the serger, because I'm just like, I don't have time. I would prefer this product to be done versus like, so I lost about like 1/8 of an inch of fabric. So that, the amount of fabric that I lost was negligible. Just to make it it was basically a sanity saver versus a fabric saver. So in that situation, I feel completely justified in my life choices. All right, now we're going to make sure this is set in properly. Then we'll do this curve. on this side. Oh yeah, I should double check to make sure that everything got caught over here. Yes, yes, and yes. Through the machine it goes, where it'll stop when I'm done sewing. Hey, I can chain piece the handles. Ooh, of the same bag. That's cool. I like that. Okay. The other thing I can do is I don't actually need to trim this edge. Trimming this edge with the pinking shears is like one of the first things that I did. Or this is the first year I've done that. And you know what? They've turned out exactly the same. So we're going to skip this pinking. This one made sense because the whole bottom is round. But realistically, all I need to do is trim down the seam allowance just so it lays nicely. So let's do that at least. So that was like 3 minutes of actual sewing time. And then, yeah, this is so much easier on my hands. So the production quality doesn't change. It's the same high quality product, but it is far easier physically for me just to do it this way. So that's what we're going to stick with. Like I said, cutting the base of the bags makes sense because it's a full curve. And realistically, I could do some snips in the middle here. And maybe that's what we'll do. So we'll just do some snips because it will give it a little bit more wiggle room to actually like go around the curve. But I can do that with my regular scissors instead of having to do it with the pinking shears that are fighting me right now. Alright, this one actually needs the seam allowance trimmed down a bit. I love the sound of these shears. It's like so, like such good ASMR. These shears. They're good fabric shears when they make that noise. I'm going to turn all of these though as we go, because I just realized if I do that, then I have the opportunity, I will take the time to sit down and actually remedy any issues that may arise. We won't finish them right now, but we will turn them. There. These are probably some of the easiest bags to birth because I don't have any interfacing in them. And so there's nothing really to stuff through the hole except for the lining and the bag itself. So some of the things I'm looking for is to make sure that like it gets caught all along these handles, obviously. No problems on that one. The big one is also to make sure that it gets caught right here in that corner where we're sewing the two handles up and down. So those are all good. I'm going to stuff it in here. And we're set. That's a nice looking bag. And yeah, see, so even just doing the trim like that makes this lie actually nicer than doing it with the pinking shears. So I will stick with that technique for sure. I don't top stitch around that edge anyway. Basically, I just trust that sewing the handles together is going to hold everything in place. I will, if it's a really stubborn fabric, I will go and press it, iron it more like before I put the handles together, but honestly even that sometimes fails. So like that is good enough to just sew together right now. Just roll that one under a little bit and that looks good. Okay, so now we're down to 22 to do. Sweet. So about, I don't remember when we started sewing that other bag. Should have paid better attention. Try and get this one under at the 30 mark. And then see if we can, what the timing is for sewing it. obviously all of these are going to be slightly different, but I do like having like an average amount of time to spend that I spend on each bag for sewing and just for cost tracking for myself. Okay, so we're going to line up those ticks so that the bag will go together nicely. Apparently this one has a really long short leg and a short long leg, but all right, let's try to assemble this bag. All right, so under sewing machine at 30/30. Let's go. Got distracted by Dahlia. She's over there grooming, and I'm like, what's happening over there? Oh, the corner of my eye. It's her cleaning. Okay, so there's one seam done. And then we'll go down and get this other one in and install as best we can. Actually, I should almost set up the camera so the phone behind me. That would be a fun view, like over the shoulder view sort of thing, like right here. Curve. This one is going to have its seam allowance trimmed down for sure. Try to finesse everything into a semblance of decent before I sew it. Make sure that this is like okay, and actually I just realized I will not be on tomorrow night because we have family dinner. We'll be on tomorrow afternoon. But I just remembered we have family dinner, so that's not going to work for streaming right after dinner. Maybe a little bit later, but it's more likely we'll be visiting. We just did family photos. And so we got to go over the photos and make decisions on what we want out of 800 photos. This woman's really good. She does our Christmas photos as well. And so it was just time to get like, it was time to update the family photos because our kiddos weren't in them. Heck, I wasn't even in them. And our niece was like very, very, very young, much younger than she is now. So it was time to get at least a few group photos done. And we have such a large group that going into like an actual photo studio would have been restrictive. Like I don't think we could have done it even if I knew where to find like a photo studio. I don't know. There used to be a photo studio in the Walmart in Northmount, but like they did a massive renovation. I don't think they've got the photo center anymore. At least not in the way where they have a photographer there that you can go get photos with. So I don't know. So the actual sewing on that was 220. And I did notice that the having to fuss around with that second seam was definitely a big time suck. Alright, we're good. I am just going to trim down the seam allowance here. So obviously the sewing is not the only thing that takes up time. There's lots of prep work beforehand. It's the cutting, the mental energy, all of that beforehand. It's a little bit of post-production here. Oh no. I just cut a hole in the bag. So we are going to go in and we are going to make the seam allowance larger. And then trim that down because then there's no hole in the bag. Oh my goodness. Guys, some days are just not good sewing days. This is not really a bad sewing day, but actually we gotta match the seam allowance on the other side because it's like otherwise the handles aren't gonna be the same size. Okay, so I'm gonna go there. That's about right. And then we'll match it up with that new. Well, at least I know that the fabric's caught. Okay, so now carefully trim down this seam allowance. More carefully than I apparently wanted to last time. Right. And trim down on this side, like this. Being careful not to trim the actual bag. And we'll trim out this little bit in the corner. There we go. That's how we do that. All right, now we're gonna just clip into the seam allowance a little bit so that we have a little bit more of a lay flat bag. And this one needs this interior swoop seam actually trimmed down as well. I think we had to trim down the other one too. But yes, all right. So I'm working on these so that they're ready for Knit City. 5 weeks away. Marketplace opens in 5 weeks. I will be leaving before that, so I need to be done in like 4 weeks. Oh shoot, I just realized I need to be done in 4 weeks. All right. This is like, Knit City is always one that like, it takes right up to the last minute to prep. But this year in particular, it's like, oof, I don't know. I've got a 20-foot booth and I don't think I have enough stock to actually fill it right now. Actually, no, that's a lie. I know I don't have enough stock to fill it right now. So, coming on these lives and cheering me on is like the best way to be able to help me make sure I hit those goals. So if you have any questions while I am sewing, please feel free to throw them in the chat. I'm happy to answer them. So that took me about 7 minutes to sew this bag. If I hadn't had to do that extra seam, since I trimmed the exterior of the bag, I probably would have been about 6 minutes. So that's not bad. Obviously, I would have preferred the smoother and the 6 minutes to the 7 minutes, but can't win them all. I don't normally sit down and turn them at the same time, but my hands are sore from using my pinking shears earlier today. And so this is just making me move them in different ways, which is good. All right. And I'll probably be on for about another hour to an hour and a half. It depends on when the kiddos fall asleep. My youngest is, I think it's time to drop their nap. They're going to be such a beast to put down for bed. Like it's getting really, really hard. So I think that we're going to be dropping the nap, which realistically isn't the worst thing. It's just I will miss that little bit of free time in the afternoon when it was like just me and whatever I wanted to do. So their day home also had to cancel their Wednesday care because I hadn't realized this, but basically it was taking a full-time spot up, which is fine. But I'm also like, oh, what am I going to do for Wednesday for September while I'm like prepping for Knit City? Because it's like right now it's got to be head down, go, 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 go. But I guess it's like between that and dropping the nap, I'm like, don't drop the nap right now. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, let's drop the nap so you go to bed before 9:30 at night and in a mood. So, all right. So this is the bees with the strawberries. I love this print, and it always makes it makes such good bags. It was super popular last time I bought it, so I was very happy to see that they still had it available when I was there in November. And realistically, I think I saw it again in May, and I should have probably stocked it again in May too, but there's other fabrics to get in May, so that's what happened. If I see it again next time, if I see it again next time I'm back in Japan, I will 100% be purchasing more. All right, I think I can chain piece it that way. If I lift the foot and the thread comes through. Yes, yes I can. I think that, yes, that worked. Sweet. All right, so let's sew this curve here. And then I'm going to trim the thread. But yeah, we're going to actually move my youngest to where the eldest is going currently for care, but we can't do it really until January or maybe even February, just with how schedules line up and stuff like that and age ranges. But I really enjoyed where they've been for day home, but like my eldest eats before they go to school and all of that, and I just want to be able to have the youngest is the fairness police, so they're always like freaking out because they don't get fed before they go to day home where they get fed breakfast. So it'll just ease everything up. It'll also ease up drop off and hopefully pick up. So we'll see about that one, but that's the hope and dream right now. Okay, so with the interior on that, we'll make sure that it got caught all the way around, and seam allowances just need to be trimmed down here. Mostly just so there's not so much fabric like inside the bag when you get it. It does help it. That does help it lay flat and like nice, even more than the pinking of it. There we go. Go around and trim this interior line of the swoop. And then I'll put some little snips in there. Pretty sure I have never done this much work on the knot bags for trimming before. Definitely have never done the snips or the pinking before. And I think they turned out fine before this. So let's actually turn this one without the snips and compare it to a bag that does have the snips. And if I need to, I'll turn it back out. Like, turn it out again. Because I'm pretty sure we'll be okay. It's always a learning experience here. Alright, do you have another side then? Yes, that side needs to be trimmed down. There we go. Man, I went for a nap today and I am still ready for another nap. Which means it's basically I'm ready for bedtime at this point. It's only 7:30. How am I ready for bed? I am like such a night owl. Well, I was before kiddos, but that has definitely degraded over the past few years. I go through like bouts of night owl now. I guess I've been busy. I've been doing a lot of work, and also being on stream means that I'm talking fairly consistently, and that definitely changes the energy that I require for working as well. Okay, let's turn this one out. I did not snip the interior line of that, so we'll see if we need to or not. I don't think we need to. So I love this fabric though. This Bees with Strawberries is like amazing. It's such a good fabric. So there's that bag, mostly finished. We'll just pull the actual handles out. Do I need to be refreshing the chat on here? Oh no, we're good, okay. Like I said, I'm on the learning curve, and it says that I'm logged into the live chat, but I don't know if it'll show up in the like Streamlabs software or not, but we'll see. Alright, there we go. Little short stubby ones. Could could probably use my little like pokey sticks like I use for the box handles, but I'm not going to. I have a higher chance of actually puncturing this fabric with those than I do actually using them correctly. Alright, so what happens? What's the consensus if it's not clipped in the middle? We're fine. So I'm not even going to snip in the middle. We're good. That's what I figured. But yeah, like look at that bag. It's so cute. It's such good fabric with the bees and the strawberries. I'll actually lift it closer to the camera. The like strawberries are so bright and the bees are like so, they look very similar to the actual fabric. Oh, there we go. That's a better light. But yeah, the like strawberries are super bright. I love it. All right, on to the next one, which is frogs on lily pads, and they're nice and super bright too. Okay, I'm going to mute my mic hopefully, and I'm going to just have a drink of water here, and then we'll get to the frogs. All right, there we go. Okay. All right, so we're going to do the frogs next. Stuff the frog fabric in the lining. It's probably a fairly bright white, considering that the frogs are kind of off-white, but you know, I wasn't going to line it in beige. Needs must. It's like staticky and not in this house now. Oh yeah, and I unlocked a new achievement and actually had thread in my hair when I went upstairs. I looked in the mirror and I had like a thread caught in my curls. I'm like, well, that's new. Of course, I always get thread like all over my clothes and on the bottom in my slippers and everywhere else, but hair was a new one. It's just like, what is this? All right. So we sew the long handle first on this bag, apparently. That changes every bag. I just kind of shoved whatever I was finessing underneath the sewing, the foot first. It's like, here, get under here and go. Okay, I'm gonna just double check on the live chat, make sure I'm not missing anything. I shouldn't be. Yeah, no, it looks like I'm logged in proper. Sweet. Okay, and we'll pull this up and then let's sew the other short. I think it does work better to sew the two arms together first and then sew the swoop in the middle afterwards. Okay. Go. Make sure I get all the fabrics here. Love how this is like a very Japanese and un-Japanese fabric all at the same time. Like it looks so much like Japan, but frogs are not, I guess. Okay, frogs are not what I personally associate with Japan, but I said that, or I started to say that, and I realized that they're actually, I think, heavily featured in one of the scrolls, like the traditional animal scrolls, along with the like rabbits and stuff like that. Now I'm gonna have to look that up and I'll get back to you on it. But it's just like, wait. Anyway, but like, even if they're not, they're frogs of Japanese aesthetic. I actually have them on a really bright green as well, and I'm excited to get that into production. So they're also on what I've termed that dobby. So they've got the slubby warp and weft in the fabric, so the fabric is really light, but it's got like the body that the slubs add is significant. It feels a lot more durable that way than if it were just a fabric of this weight without that detailing of texture. go. Now I will trim down the seam allowances. We'll double check to make sure everything got caught. So like around there, it's good. All the lining, there's at least some lining caught in all of it. Enough that it's not going to like run off into the hills. And then I'll turn it right side out and I'll show you what I mean about frogs of a Japanese aesthetic. And now I'm gonna have to look up, I might have to look up the actual scroll. I'm sure it's something like Animal Story or something like that. I think it's like Dobutsu Monogatari. But again, don't quote me on that. I'll trim this up and then I'll look it up quick because it shouldn't take me that long to find the information. There we go. And we're going to trim down this side. Just clean things up. I will be doing a drop-off of stock to Market Mall, Market Spot and Market Mall on Monday. They just moved locations, so I had planned to drop it off last week, but their move has taken a little bit longer than expected, which, fair enough. Apparently they've only had 2 people move the whole store, which is insane. They also have a much smaller space, so I checked in with them just to make sure that there was still space for me and all that, which there is, which is good. And she was a little bit worried because she was like, "You've got a double-sided display, right?" And I'm like, "Well, if you can only fit a single-side display, that's fine." And what I'm thinking is, it's like, realistically, I only have enough stock to do a single-sided display right now, so that will actually be better. So thank you for the support, because that means that I am making quite a few sales. And not necessarily being able to keep up completely. I'll be able to do, like, as long as I keep my head down over the winter, I'll be able to catch up a little bit better, which will be good. I've also done a little bit of a pivot on the products that I'm offering this summer with the wallets and the upcycled Obi bags and stuff like that, and so that is where some of that energy that would normally go to project bags is going as well. Alright, so we're turning out the frog bag because I gotta show that these frogs are of a Japanese aesthetic. I can't explain it, but they are. And then I'm going to look up what the scroll is that I'm thinking of, because I can't remember if it's frogs or turtles. I know there's rabbits in it, and now it's bugging me because it might be a nod to one of the very traditional scrolls, and I've seen it. I can picture it in my head, in my mind's eye. And these are not exact, but they're pretty close. If I can actually share my screen, I think I can share my screen. If not, maybe what I'll do is I'll pull my phone down and I'll show you just on my camera from my phone. Alright, so let's stuff this in here like this. And then, yeah, like, I don't know why, but these are frogs of a Japanese aesthetic. I don't make the rules. I just follow them. And then even then, I don't follow them very often. But they're like, I don't know. Oh, and then actually, sometimes the texture picks up on the phone really well. From my end, you can kind of see it, especially down here. So it's a slubby warp and weft. It's got a really cool textured hand. All right, let's look up what... I think if I just do Japanese rabbit scroll. Let's see. It is frogs. It's not like these frogs, but that would be it. So it's, okay, I'm just going to read you the little blurb off of Wikipedia. It says, the Choju Jinbutsu Giga, commonly shortened to Choju Giga, is a famous set of 4 picture scrolls or emakimono belonging to Kozanji Temple in Kyoto, Japan. Yeah, and it is totally frogs. So this is probably a nod towards the frogs, and that's why I feel like they're like The frogs are of a Japanese aesthetic. Okay, I'm gonna throw the link in the chat and we'll see if that works. No, you can't put links in chats. Interesting. Okay, so I'll write the name out for you, and then if you want to go take a look at it, you can. And that's just through the wiki. If you throw that into, well, you can't actually paste. Interesting. Okay, so it's a choju jinbutsu giga. And that is the scroll. And so it's like frogs and rabbits and animals wrestling on the first scroll, etc. And so these frogs, that's what they remind me of. The frogs on the fabric. They're not exactly the same, but they're close enough that that's what I got reminded of. All right, back to the sewing, what you're actually here for. But that's fun to see. Anyway, so the fabric that I have, that's the green background, is like a searing lime green, and it's really fun and bright. So I'll definitely have that ready for next summer, if not before, because we all need some pick-me-up bright colors in the wintertime too. Actually, I think we need them, especially in Canada, we need them more in the winter than we do in the summertime in some ways, because most of our landscapes just absolutely burst with green here. And the winters that are white and like dreary. Actually, the worst ones are like, the worst time period is honestly in some ways April. Right on that edge of, you know, that the green is coming, and then it just takes forever to show up. Because most of the time it's not very green here until mid to late May. Also, if you're coming into this live stream and you don't know why I just threw this random name into the, let's give that name some context. So those are the animal scrolls that remind Katie, me, of the frogs. Ooh. On the knot bag. Such a random thing to be reminded of while you're working with Japanese fabrics, but you know, at least I know that my live chat works. I can actually see it in the Streamlabs desktop as well, so that's good. Okay. I already did a seam. Sweet. So we're just gonna keep rolling through all of this. This is The Cats Are Back in Town on Dusty Rose. So if you were watching the stream yesterday, a lot of these fabrics will be familiar because I was cutting cake cozies out of the offcuts from the knot bags, which is the whole point. Cake cozies, triangle pouches, and honestly even some of the wristlets, at least the like lobster clasp wristlets were all scrap buster projects from the knot bags, and now if I cut the knot bag in a certain fashion, I end up with an offcut that allows me to create all of those products from it, which I am very pleased with because it means that I eventually do use my scraps and I don't drown in them instead. I do end up selling on or passing on a lot of my smaller scraps to other makers. And that's how I divert a lot of my fabric waste, because like there's just stuff I don't use because it's too small, or I plan to use and then I don't a lot of the time. It's like I have plans for it, but it's just I get bogged down in working on other things, and so it's just sometimes better to pass it on before it does get like overwhelm the studio, especially now that I'm in a smaller studio space. So we moved house last year, and the amount of studio space that I have actually reduced by about half. So I have to be a little bit more space conscious in this one. Dallas and I just moved my cutting table from the actual sewing studio space into so the basement's been developed. It's a walkout basement and it has a bedroom space and like this living room space that I'm in right now. Living room space became my sewing studio. And then the bedroom that had been developed down here is actually becoming my cutting room. So it was my fabric storage space last year, but we didn't put the cutting table in there until this year because we're like, well, we'll have guests over and it's nice to have a guest bedroom, but we're never going to have anyone stay over. And if we do, they can stay on the couch upstairs. Or we can set up like a bed down here or something like that. There is room to set up like a blow-up bed in the middle of the sewing studio, so they'd still have their own space. But realistically, it's nicer staying upstairs because the cat boxes are down here. And no matter how much you clean cat boxes, they stink. Anyway, so we moved the cutting table out of the sewing studio space that I'm in right now into the bedroom, which actually did make a lot more space. But I'm still trying to figure out some different efficiencies for the room because it's just again, a learning curve. I also added leather last year after we moved into the house, and so that I'm glad I didn't have to move that, but that adds another layer of like storage for tools and supplies, and leather should really only be stored a certain way. So coming down to the fact that I might need to actually evict my yarn from the yarn closet it's currently in and put it into storage because I'm like, I don't use it a lot as it is right now. It would actually be more accessible if I put it into the storage room. Could just bin it, and then I would free up the closet space in the bedroom for other things. Although at the same time, it's like, then I would need to get new shelves to store stuff on, and I don't really want to move. It's got a calyx in the closet right now, and I don't really want to move the calyx out of there. But what I would want to store in there is leather and stuff, and that won't work on the calyx because they're they're full sides, and so they're rolled up in great big giant tubes. So there's only so many great big giant tubes you can store on top of a shelf in a closet. I don't know, I'll figure it out. This is something that I don't need to worry about until after Knit City, but since excuse me, my full brain isn't engaged with sewing, I basically daydream about what I would do with my studio. What I would really like to do with the studio is get rid of the carpet. That will be something that we do in the next few years. I think we might put some vinyl plank in or something like that. There's nothing really, well, we're wearing the carpet down here really fast because we didn't clean it when we first moved in, and we haven't cleaned it since we moved in, which I should. But it's like high traffic carpet too, and it's shag. So it's got quite a bit of life left in it, at least upstairs. I'm actually surprised with how well it wore upstairs, all things considered. Definitely wore better than the stuff we had in our old house. And this house is about 6 months younger as well, or older. So, oh, that's the wrong way. It's exterior into interior. I'm just jogging along here. All right. And then I think I'm down to 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm down to 18. That's pretty good, actually, all things considered. So I will try and get all of these done before I sign off for tonight. Although I will be calling it quits once the kids are in bed. We were doing a dry couple of months, but we've decided that the summer is not the time to do that. We like sitting out on our deck and having our beer together. So we did 2.5 weeks. I feel pretty good about that. But neither of us is really in the headspace to do a dry 2 months at least. Because we were going to go all the way through to Knit City. And then it's like, I'm not drinking at Knit City if I have the opportunity or the inclination. Same as when we're out in Victoria as well. But last summer we did like beers on the deck every night, and it was just a nice chill catch up time once the kids were in bed and all of that. So once they're in bed, that is what I'm going to go do with my husband, because I've been working all day pretty much. I had to battle the serger this morning. It looks like it basically just need a rethread, which is nuts. I will have to battle the serger again to rethread the white here. Not tonight, because those products are in timeout until I have the mental moment to rethread the serger again. It's not that bad. It's realistically, it's the exact same setup as the industrial machine, except that the needle goes a different direction. But it's just the way that it went last night. I don't know. Machines sometimes have a mind of their own, even if they're not sentient. And sometimes it's just better to stand back and stay out of their way. That's the story I'm going to stick to. Last night was a prime example of that. Alright, now we got to do the swoop. Ooh, I can already tell you that we got to go up. So I did not catch the full seam here. So we're going to have to actually redo that. I'm going to redo that right now while I see it. Basically what I'll do is I'll meld the two stitch stuffs right down here like that, and then we're going to go a couple more, and we're going to turn and go up this side. Go. There. And I'll just go all the way to the end, because realistically 2 stitch lines are better than 1. Okay, how's that look? That looks better. Okay, that side is all good. So now we do the middle. This is like, I've had Mount Fuji on the like Dobby before, but I really like this more sand color background. The one I had before with Mount Fuji was like a white. Way prettier Mount Fuji, but I really like the background color on this one more than the white. We're also having a change in the big bags upcoming. I got a request for a big bag with a canvas bottom because they were concerned, the customer was concerned about getting it dirty. Fairly enough, it was a fairly light fabric. And so I made it with a new big bag with a canvas bottom. And it turned out way too well. Like, way too well. So to the point where I will now be doing all my big bags will have canvas on the bottom. It realistically doesn't add much time, and it doesn't add much material cost either. So the cost of the big bag will remain the same with those 2 factors in mind. And now I just got to get new canvas colors, which realistically I should get some new canvas colors for the Kato bags anyway. So I'm thinking I've got like a black and a charcoal right now, and I'm thinking I'll add a brown, like a nice warm brown, and a navy. All fairly dark colors because obviously it's going to be going on the bottom of the bag, blah blah blah. But I figure a warm brown will be a little bit less stark than a black for some of the prints, and then the navy will fill in a nice gap with the blue prints that end up happening. Because like I think even with this print, because of the sand color, navy would look better than the black. And I don't know when those colors will come in. I don't know when I'm going to order them. At this point, I don't think I'm going to be prepping any more big bags before Knit City. So I'll probably order and create big bags after Knit City. Actually, on that note, then I wonder if the Luxe tote bag should have a canvas bottom or not as well. Some of them anyway. So obviously with the large, like, kind of overall prints, that works the best. But the prints, like, I'm thinking of a couple bags where basically the bottom of the bag was featured the large print. So like I made one with a hipster orange tabby on it years ago, and like some geisha walking across the bottom of the bag as well. And like in that case, the canvas wouldn't work, or at least it would actually subtract from the bag. But I wonder with the rest of them if I should use canvas. I'm gonna have to experiment with that and see. Because when I say that the canvas makes it look better, Caroline pointed out what the difference was that adding the canvas in actually made the print pop more, which is very interesting because you think more print. Here, I'm going to turn this down a little bit so you can see my face better and my hand expressions. Anyway, you'd think that more print would mean that less distractions, but honestly, adding the canvas in meant that the print was actually highlighted and brought to the forefront more, which is absolutely insane. So I'm kind of annoyed with myself because I was like, I'm not going to do big bags with canvas on the bottom. And now I am. Now that was like Katie of, when did I start making big bags? Would have been my first olds. So probably like 9 years ago. No, 8 years ago. Yeah. And so Katie of 8 years ago and Katie of now are two very different people, which is good. Growth. Alright, there's the Mount Fuji. They are adorable, and that color is so good. It is not actually the color on the laptop, so the little picture-in-picture is showing up better than the color on the camera or on the phone. Let me see how it's actually showing up on YouTube, just out of curiosity, because it's like, oh yeah, the color on the phone is actually color accurate versus the color that you can see on the, so the color in the picture-in-picture is accurate versus the color that you can see from the camera, from the phone, which is interesting. Anyway, it's got that Dobby slub in the warp and weft, which you can see from the phone, and it's good. It's good. Not good soup, but it's good. All right, so we got 3, 5. Wait. Oh yeah, 3, 4, 5. Got 18 left. Get to do the sheepies next. Sheep, 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 sheep. Sheep next. I'll go back here so I can actually see the chat again. And actually I'm going to close that so that I'm able to see a little bit more of the actual stream. Okay. You'd think with me sitting down for most of the day, granted we did go for a walk this morning, but you'd think with me sitting most of the day sewing, I would not be this tired. Whew, and I even had a nap, like I said. I had like a half hour to lay down. Well, okay, I didn't sleep the whole time. Probably only slept for about 10 minutes, but I did rest. Because I finished the last live stream and I'm like, oof. Went out and sat outside with Dallas and the kids for a little bit, and then I was like, I need to go lay down for a bit, so that I have energy to do the rest of the things. And then it lied. This nap lied to me. I do not have more energy to do the things. Oh well, maybe tomorrow. There's always tomorrow. Monday, I have an 11-mile run, which to me is insane. The crazy part about this whole training program that I'm doing right now is that every 2 weeks I will be running the most I have ever run before. So the next 2 weeks after that, I actually walk a 4-mile and then I run 13 miles, which is nearly a marathon, or a half marathon. A half marathon is 13.1 miles. And so it's just every 2 weeks. And I know why. It's because you're building up your endurance. You want your distances and your volume has to go up, because there's no way that your body would be able to do it without the distance and the volume. But I'm just like, oh my goodness. But I changed my cadence for running 2 weeks ago when I had my 9-mile run, and my body was like, yeah, we got this. And so it wasn't completely destroyed. I ran on Sunday. It wasn't completely destroyed on Monday or Tuesday, which is excellent. I know it wasn't a full half marathon, but it's I was still a functioning individual the next day, which was really good. And it meant that I could have gotten up and run again. It wouldn't have been as happy, but I would have been able to get up on Monday and run again, even though I just run 9 miles, which I'd never done before. on the Sunday. So hopefully that's a good sign for the Dopey Challenge in January. The funny part about this is it's like I'm pretty sure every race I go to after this is it's still not going to be easy, but it's going to be like, in comparison, it's going to be so much easier than getting up and doing the Dopey Challenge every morning. I'm also looking forward to not having to do quite as crazy of a training schedule next summer. I want to get more biking, well, and even over the winter, I want to get more biking, more spin classes in, and I want to do more yoga and more swimming. I want to get back to swimming a bit more. So I'll be able to distribute my efforts a little bit more. Although I am going to train to run the half marathon in Calgary, because the next run that we're applying for next August is the Tokyo Marathon for 2025. Hopefully we get in. And so I've got to keep up some sort of training program. But that, at least we can really set a training program once we know whether we're getting into Tokyo Marathon or not. Which is actually a good point, that I should go in and I need to book our hotels eventually. Basically, we're going to be going in 2025. We just don't know if we're going to be going in January or if we're going to be going in March. And the acceptance to the Tokyo Marathon is the deciding factor in that. So probably what I'll do is I'll book hotel rooms for both the options with a free cancellation, and then I'll just cancel the ones we're not going to use. That's basically how I ended up doing the trip with Caroline, and why we were able to get such good deals is as we moved it out, I just kept rebooking our hotel rooms. So like the first set of nights that we were in Tokyo, we got that absolutely spectacular hotel for like $150 a night, which for Tokyo is an absolute steal. I don't know if I'll ever see those prices again. Although in November I had a like premier hotel, it was called. It's probably a $400 to $500 a night a hotel, because it's right on Kyoto Station, and it was spectacular. I have daydreams about that hotel. Probably should have night dreams about it too, considering that how nice it was. But anyway, yeah, and it's like I think I paid about $150 a night per night for that one. Now that one I did pay a premium, even when I was what I would consider premium for a single traveler in November. But it was worth it because it was right on the train station, and that's what I needed that trip. Although the hotel that Caroline and I stayed in were decent, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Although the price that we paid for it and its location were spectacular too, so I'm not going to complain about that. Although it did kind of mislead about a few things. So it said that it had like a gym and a pool, and I'm like, perfect, I'll go swimming while we're there, or use the gym and go for a run inside, because it was too hot to run outside at the times when like I had an opportunity to run outside. But it was an extra charge, which was not communicated in anything before I actually got there. So it was like, oh, come on. You need to communicate that sort of thing before you get to the hotel. But oh well. Learned my lesson. It is nice to know that it is there, though. So it's like if the kids get older and they like demand a hotel pool, like I don't know of many hotels in Japan that actually have pools. So even with a little bit of an upcharge, it's like, okay, that would be worth it for being able to use it a few times. So although I say that and I think, oh yeah, I was just going to use the gym, because I was like, I didn't even pack my swimsuit. Since I'm like when I go, I try to like obviously get the most amount of fabric that I can into my bags. This last trip I basically packed for the 2 weeks in a carry-on, because that way I was able to get as much fabric as I could into those bags. I also carried home donuts, and that, I have to admit, is probably the weirdest thing that I have brought home from Japan ever. They're Krispy Kreme donuts from Shibuya, because they had Sesame Street donuts, so they had an Elmo and a Cookie Monster, and I'm like, okay, I can't not go home without Cookie Monster and Elmo donuts. So Elmo was actually quite tasty. It had like a strawberry jelly on top. So the Krispy Kreme donut, I don't know, wasn't a big fan of the actual donut, but I was 100% a fan of the actual theming of the donut. And I don't think we would ever have that in North America. So there's the sheepies. Now we get to do the fans here. I have made an eyeglass case out of this, and it is absolutely spectacular. Again, the color is much more accurate in the little picture-in-picture. I'm actually going to expand that picture-in-picture a little bit. Give me a moment. If I can find, yeah, there we go. There, we're going to expand the picture-in-picture because then you can actually see the fabric colors a little bit more accurately. And we'll move that little viewer count up. There we go. Yeah, so the picture-in-picture is a lot more accurate for color-wise. Which is wild because the camera on the actual phone is way better than the camera on the Mac. But I'll take it. Alright. Anyway, the most color-accurate version of this is, I actually do have a glasses case listed on the website right now, so you can go check that out if you would like. It's a very bubblegum pink, like Hubba Bubba. Or, not Hubba Bubba. What's Double Bubble? That's it. That's the pink. It's like Double Bubble pink. That would be closer. Just totally still a bubble gum, but like, it's not like gumball bubble gum. It's Double Bubble pink. Now I want Double Bubble. It goes rock solid in like 30 seconds, but it's just like that nostalgic flavor and color. I don't even know if that translates outside of Canada. Like, is it something that you can get down in the States, or like what? Okay, I'm going to move myself again and then shrink the actual little picture-in-picture again a little bit. There we go. And let's move the viewer count down over the computer, because realistically, the computer's not moving. All right. Just then you can actually see the sewing process a little bit better. Oops. Okay. Oh, we are out of bobbin. All right. Well, that's a good spot to be because we actually finished the seam. Sweet. I like when that happens. So we'll swap the bobbin. I don't understand how bobbins on this machine are the same size as domestic machines when you go through just as much thread. Like, I don't get it. I will set it up for winding here though. Okay. Like, what I mean by that is it's like, why isn't there a setup for the industrial and domestic machines that's like the serger, where it just comes off a spool? It has to be how it like catches it underneath, I guess. But that doesn't mean I can't be annoyed with it. It's like my biggest pet peeve about sewing is the bobbins. This isn't even like tedium, it's just pet peeves. Alright, so let's get this sewing. Alright, so I think I am on track to finish these before the kiddos are asleep, but we'll see. Probably just jinxed myself, but you know. Okay, once I get through this first half of the short arm and do the turn, I will start the bobbin winding. Turn, a little bit of back stitch here. And then no, don't take my end. If you wind the end in, it'll be a mess. Okay, 1 second. Like the bobbin, so it actually pulled the end out of my hand. Usually what it's supposed to do is break it off, but it tried to wind the end onto the actual bobbin, which will not work. Well, it will until you hit that point, and it's like you waste part of the bobbin. Wouldn't have been that much, but it would have been very annoying, and it probably would have jammed up the whole upper process as well, to the point of having to like rethread it too. So glad I caught that. So in this case, the label actually goes into that turning opening that I leave open on the interior that I've been like birthing the bags through. And basically it gets closed, and then we French seam the handles, and it's done. So the knot bags are a lot of fun to make. They are inspired by the Japanese knot bag as well, because hi, Japanese fabric, Japanese bags. I did actually get some bag patterns when I was there in May, so I need to, in the winter time, that'll be something that I open up and take a better look at too, because hi, I think that'd be a lot of fun. It's not something that I ever thought of to do before, but someone earlier this year was asking for more Japanese styled bags, and so I figured that's a good way to do it. Although I did find an online YouTube tutorial for one of the shapes that I saw at Toji, which is the temple market that I go to, or one of them that I go to. It's one I go to the most. There you go. Because honestly, I've only been to the Kitano Tenmangu temple market once when I was like there in November, and it was my only option. Anyway, I saw bags at Toji when I was there in May that I found a YouTube tutorial for, and so I'm super excited to bring them into the shop because they're going to be a lot of fun. It's a very interesting shape, which is what's exciting about it. So, well, at least it's what makes me excited about it. I think it would also work really well with the kimono. It's something that, like, if I really wanted to, I could patchwork. Probably won't. I'm not a big patchwork person, at least not for bags. But yeah, I think it would be a lot of fun for a purse. Not really, well, it's kind of like a tie, or like a mashup between like a tote and a purse. It's a handbag sort of thing, but like, I don't know. You'll just have to wait to see it. It's going to be really good, I think. All right, so we're going to trim down the swoop, and then we'll turn this bag as well. Just have to close my window because it's gotten a little bit too chilly, so we will definitely be, I'm in shorts right now, because I was just like, it's one of those, it's that time of year when it's so hard to regulate temperatures without layers. And so with the long sleeves up top, I'm like, well, shorts will be good, but with the window open, it got a little bit too cold. Before we go outside for our beer, I will be putting my shorts on because, or some pants on, because I'll be too cold otherwise. All right, so we're gonna turn this bag right side out again. This is such good fabric. This is not one that I had my eye on before I went to Kyoto in November, but I definitely saw when I was in, I think this is from Nomura. Is this Nomura or was this Tomato? I can't remember. It really doesn't matter. It came from Japan. It's Tokyo or Kyoto. But I do need to go in and fix a little bit of a patch there. There's a hole that you can see. So let's just double check this arm and make sure I stitched it fine. Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to actually turn the whole bag back out. I'm just going to pull that section out. We'll fix it, and then we'll rebirth the bag back through the bottom. Alright, so we just need to, I see exactly what we need to do. We'll go in, down a little bit further than we did before, back, that, pivot, and up. And that should be good. Okay. And there we go. That is fixed. Very glad I caught that before I was like, I'm gonna finish the handles. Which has happened before, and then it's like, okay, well now I gotta turn the bag back up, or back inside out before I can finish. And that's when it's typically the product goes into timeout. All right, there we go. Oh, excuse me. There. fan fabric, and I'll show it a little bit better on the actual laptop screen because that is color correct, at least on my side from what I can see on my screen through my Max camera. Yeah, I really like it. At least the phone gives a good overview of what it looks like. And actually, you got quite a few fans on the handles too, which is super nice. Mostly partial fans, but at least a good part of a partial fan. All right, this is bag 16 of 16, which means we're a third of the way through already, which is awesome. I approve of that message. Okay, I'm going to stuff this in, and then I'm going to take another drink of water. So that means I'm just going to mute my mic for a moment, because one thing that I absolutely abhor is hearing people drink on screen. All right, we're back. So we're gonna stuff the sheep in its lining here. And then we'll finesse the handles in where they need to go. This is one of those ones where it's like, I could stitch it in white or I could stitch it in black. The exterior is actually stitched in black. I don't know what I'm actually going to finish the exterior in because the French seams do have a visible seam. Basically a top stitch finishing edge. And so it's like I got to decide if I want to finish this in white thread or if I want to finish it in black thread. Right now, it doesn't matter. We'll decide later. But we'll determine like if I finish it first or second basically. Or with the first batch or with the second batch. Because right now the trajectory is we will finish getting all of these interiors and exteriors together, and then I will finish the handles with the French seams. Then we'll switch thread and I will sew all the black thread cake cozies and grime guards, and then we'll do all the finishing French seams on the knot bags. I know if you were watching my streams earlier, I know I was saying that I was going to do the like large box bag cutting and everything like that this weekend. It's not going to happen. I'm going to finish up the knot bags because then like there's something I can actually check off my list, and like it's done. And then we can go into the large box bags next week. That's the current trajectory. We'll see where I get to over the weekend, but given how everything's going, I should be able to finish at least like interior exterior installation tonight and the turning, which is good. And then we'll do the top stitching tomorrow. I don't think I want to tackle top stitching and French seams tonight. Not quite yet. All right, around the curve and up. So my eldest was pretending play you. So she's it was like, we're gonna play mama, and it was super cute because I'm like, oh, what does mama do? And so it was running, which is super awesome, and exercise. And then I asked what I do for work, and it's like babies. I'm like, well, yeah, that's part of the work, but I also sew. It was adorable. I appreciated it. And then it was play daddy. And what does daddy do? And it was like run, and then it was like fast and slow. And I shouldn't laugh, but I was very glad that I didn't get the slow, because I'm not a very fast runner. Oh, although actually increasing my cadence meant that I did decrease my average pace by almost a minute in 2 weeks, which was so good to see. Because I'm kind of like, I am very worried that I'm going to take too long on the Disney Marathon, and that's what's going to disqualify me from finishing the Dopey Challenge. Now I do have enough time to still be training, but it's just like I'm right on that edge of being able to actually do it in the time limit allowed. I think physically I could do it. It's just whether I can do it in the time limit we have available to us. I think it's like 6.5 to 7 hours. I think my current pace is 9:20. Now that did drop significantly over the race or the run that I just did the other day. So I was like 8:45, 9:15. It just kept creeping up. It's kind of funny to see on the stats, which tells me the other thing I need to do even more than like my cardio is I need to do some strength training, because I think it's my muscles that are actually holding me back right now, not necessarily my cardio. Cardio improvement will also help, obviously, but I think it's actually the physical portion of my strength is failing. So I did start seeing a physio because I do have some plantar, what is he calling it? Fasciopathy? Anyway, it's typically known as fasciitis, plantar fasciitis. Got a really tight tendon basically on the bottom of my foot. It's been super painful. So I finally started going to see physio for that. Since we have coverage, I may as well, sort of thing. And it is starting to feel better, but I'm definitely noticing that I am weak in my legs. So he's given me some very specific exercises for the actual like tendon, and then I'm trying to do some more squats and other strengthening exercises as well. That's part of why I want to get back into like swimming and spin and yoga, especially because it's like a full body strengthening exercise versus like running is going to make my legs really strong, and they are pretty strong, but yoga and spin will kind of be in more, well, yoga specifically is more all body for me, at least the style that I tend towards. Trying to convince them that they need to bring back the core flow that they used to teach, and that was one of the best ones. I've had such good core strength before kids. Although I'm noticing that it's coming back recently, so that's nice too. It's just only so many hours in the day, so it's like the minimum is I have to run, so that's what we're focusing on right now. And then over the next few weeks, especially after Knit City, I'll be able to add in the weights. So even, that's what, October, so that gives me 3 good months to really strengthen up before going and doing the Dopey Challenge. So better than nothing. And then I can do it a bit more consistently over the next year as I like settle into a better routine, childcare gets settled out. Both kiddos will be in summer camps next summer, which will give me a lot of extra time, even more than I have right now for work especially. There's the sheep. These are such good sheep. Like, look at those curly little heads. So good. I love the sketchiness of it. All right, so we are down to 18 more, or 15 more. So we're gonna do pancakes next. I can hear drifting down from the upstairs a little bit of a complaint that it's bedtime, so we'll see how much more I can get done before they go down for sleep. Or before I need a break. Whichever comes first, to be honest. Nice thing about this whole Streamlabs thing is that oh, perfect. It looks like they're both down. So I'll finish up this bag, and then it is time to go have a beer with my husband. I'm like, I'm going to finish these before they go down to bed. Nope, they're down to bed. That is quite impressive. But the youngest did skip their nap today, so that's a good indication that's probably time to cut the nap completely. So I'll finish this one up. Thank you for joining my stream tonight. Crazy that I was able to get 2 streams in today. I will not be streaming tomorrow night. We have family dinner. Or if I stream tomorrow night, it will be quite a bit later. It'll be closer to around like 7:30 to 8:30 probably. But I will be on tomorrow afternoon, finishing up the last of these knot bags that I'm not going to get done tonight probably. And then I will be on maybe in the afternoon on Monday. I'll see how I do after running 11 miles, if my legs will cooperate and like actually sewing at the sewing machine or not. Actually, that would be maybe a good day to go chill in the cutting room and get linings cut for the large box bags and the Kato bags. So I'll be on at some point. I will let you know via Instagram. That's usually the best way to know when I'm going to be on live, or you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, and it will actually give you a notification typically when I am coming on live, since I'm not on live constantly like Lo-Fi Girl. What else? Yeah, so thank you so much for joining me. I really very much appreciate it. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'm just going to let you listen to the sweet, sweet sounds of the sewing machine here for a minute. That's going to need a little bit of a repair there in the corner, so we'll just do that while I've got it turned this direction. We're going to finish this bag before I leave the stream for sure. Because there's no point in leaving it undone. And I cut that seam allowance a little bit too close. Let's just run it back up to the other seam. Line. There we go. And we'll go down through this. Alright, and then we'll just turn this out, and then I will head off. So once again, thank you so much for joining me. I very much appreciate it. And I hope that you enjoyed our wander down through the frogs and the actual, like, scrolls. And I'll just show this one off because this fabric requires some admiration because it's super adorable. It's breakfast foods and, like, delivery breakfast foods. Delivery is not a big thing in Japan. Well, at least it wasn't when I was there on exchange, from what I could tell. And apparently to do takeout food and to have inside food, it's like two very different licenses in Japan. So takeout was even difficult. But that has obviously shifted, and I think that this fabric kind of reflects that shift as well. Alright, so let's get this finessed into the exterior, and there we go. There is the pancake. Breakfast and delivery. How to make a pancake. Super cute. So I hope you guys all have a fantastic evening, and I will be back tomorrow afternoon. And I will, if you can't join me then, I will chat with you all soon. Thanks so much, and have a fantastic day.